Do you have trouble getting started when you look at that big white piece of paper or canvas and maybe just fear sets in, you're scared to mess it up or waste your supplies? I'm Pat Scribner. I'm a visual artist from Vancouver Island, Canada, and today I thought I'd show you how I get started. I'm going to be working on a series of paintings on paper. If you enjoy the video, it would really help me if you subscribe to my channel. You can hit that little bell for notifications so you find out about my latest video. And like the video, leave any comments, that really helps me. You can also follow me on Instagram where I post regularly, or come on over to Facebook and join my creative community there where other like-minded artists will be in the community and can give you support. So let's get started. I'm not really working this fast. I've sped it up quite a bit, but here you see me using a Lyra graphite stick just to mark up the whole surface. And this is taped off. You can see the white tape, but I'm working on them all at the same time. So now I'm using a oil bar, an R&F oil bar, oil stick, and just putting on some oil paint. I'm going over it now with a brayer of some yellow, and you can see that the oil bar does lift and move a bit. So you get some color blending here. I find you can only use the brayer at the beginning of this process. After you get too many layers of wax on, it just doesn't work anymore. You need a softer applicator. So with the brayer, you're putting quite a bit of pressure on when you're doing this. So I'm working here on Arches oil paper, the full sheet, and I've just taped it off into a grid with the white artist tape. I'm using a catalyst blade wedge, I guess it's called, and I really like these. They're quite ergonomic. Fit nicely in the heel of your hand, although I'm not holding it that way so much right now. But I'm just using more of an opaque color here to obliterate, and of course I'm still pulling up some of that purple paint, blending it as I go. So it is changing the color of the blue in places. Working on wet can be challenging sometimes. If you don't really understand your colors, you can get into a problem of making a neutral, or what a lot of artists call mud. So I'm adding some transparent blue here, and I'm keeping these paintings in a fairly analogous color range. Just going to stick with the greens and blues, but you can really see here the difference of using an opaque and a transparent color, how the transparent shifts the colors. You can see the yellow being shifted to a green, and how it lets the underlying marks show through. So that's one of the real benefits of using the transparent color, but we need opaque too to obliterate and calm things down. If we just use transparent layers, we're going to have a lot of marks and a lot of patterns, and we need some of that soft, flat area, the contrast of that. It really makes a difference in a painting to have that contrast. So I'm always looking for contrasts in my work, and here you see me using a palette knife and putting on some really fresh bright green paint that I've mixed out of the colors on my palette. So just using a combination of the yellow and blue. And I really am enjoying this color palette here that I'm working in today. Somehow this green just so much reminds me of spring and the freshness of it with the blue skies, even though I'm working very, very abstract and not at this point trying to make these into anything, just really putting colors down and seeing where this all goes. I find that's the beauty of working this way, very intuitively, and just applying paint and layers and making marks and working on a whole bunch at one time really makes a difference to keeping your work fresh and alive, I find, because you're not getting too caught up in one piece, trying to make that one piece perfect. You just keep moving. It's a bit like a conveyor belt process. And I think it really keeps your work fresh. So it's harder to do on big pieces, of course, but in my studio, I always have several paintings on the go that I go back and forth between. So now I'm starting to really blend with this catalyst blade and kind of soften down my colors and blend them more. So with oil paint, with cold wax in it, or just plain oil paint, you can really get a lot of blending happening. Now, again, blending can be not to your advantage if you're blending wet into wet with opposite colors. You're definitely going to get some very brown shades, but in this case, my colors are next door to each other in the color wheel, and they're all working harmoniously together. So that's really a good place to start if you're worried about making mud, or if you always tend to go in that direction. Try just working with colors next door to each other on the color wheel. So this would be a cool color palette. And I've added a little bit of white and kept on going with these, but here's a few close-ups so that you can see some of the marks and textures that I've created, and the values in the work, and how I've marked back into the pieces to give it some line and some structure, if you will. Line is a great tool for structure. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell if you want notifications. See you next time.